Okay.
Today is a special day. This video is going to be slightly different than usual, and it's not going to be very long. I don't think so. Sometimes I say that, and then it turns out otherwise. Today, we are celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary.
That is today.
That is today. So,
oh yeah, but happy anniversary.
Thanks. So, we wanted to tell you guys that story and maybe ask each other a couple questions. The first thing I want to do though is I want to remind you guys that tomorrow, Tuesday, April 27th at 7 p.m. we are premiering, that's Central Time, we are premiering our move, and the info about that, you guys have been asking a lot of questions that we've been largely avoiding for the last handful of months. You've been speculating, you've been all of these things, and we had to just get some ducks in a row first, and they're in a row. And so we are now...
What does that even mean?
Have you ever seen ducks walk? They walk in a row.
Oh, that's what that's about. Okay.
And it's just a saying, get your ducks in a row.
I know,
like,
I know the saying. I know what that means. I just didn't understand why we said that. I was like, that's a weird thing to say.
But they are so cute when you go feed them and they walk in a row.
So getting your stuff in order has to do with being cute?
So we are... we're going to be premiering it.
If that's the case, you got everything in order.
Tomorrow evening at 7 Central Time. We'll be on there chatting with you guys in the chat. And we're so excited. I worked really hard on that video. And it has been just a work in progress.
It feels like carrying heavy rock up a hill, and now we're getting to set it down.
Yeah, roll it down. So, please join us for that. Plan on being there with us Tuesday evening. But today, so tomorrow we're celebrating the 7-year anniversary
of moving in here.
Of moving into this house. And today, the 10-year anniversary of our marriage. Do you know that whenever I was saying that the other day, I was like, oh my goodness, are you serious? We'd only been married 3 years when we moved in here? Mm-hmm. That's wild to think of. I mean, we dated for the year before, but like...
We did a lot in those 3 years.
Yeah. We had two whole kids. That's crazy. It is really cool. We're in a really neat point in our lives, in our marriage, I would say. And so today I want to talk a little bit about relationship. And I don't even really know exactly what I'm going to talk about. It's a little impromptu. And I was like, let's make a video because it's our anniversary. Celebrate our love. Jeremiah and I, people ask us like what our love story is all the time. And I don't know, for a long time I felt like it wasn't profound, but I do love it. Jeremiah and I, we were both married when we were really young, and so we have a blended family. We share that with you guys, and we met because I went to church with his family.
Yep.
And his mom was one of my closest friends. His brother was one of my...
You've known my side of the family for years, and we never met.
Yeah. I mean, years. Our paths crossed. And I'm talking like for years. From when I was a teenager. I knew your family. And I remember being at like graduation parties for members of your family. And they're like, oh, you just missed Jeremiah. And like all this stuff for years. Our paths kind of crossed. And I remember the first time I met you, it was New Year's Eve. That was 2009 to 2010, New Year's Eve. And it wasn't like a love at first sight moment or anything like that, but I very vividly remember. I rember what shirt you were wearing. It's so weird.
What shirt was I wearing?
That black one that had OU on it. It was like a t-shirt.
Yeah, I wear that a lot.
What ended up happening is our kids became friends, and we started spending time together, and we became just really, really good friends. And I remember, I mean, we were both going through just tumultuous time of our lives. And I remember, like, we would have those conversations. We would talk really late at night on the phone, and we'd talk about, like, what our life would be like. And I don't think there was ever a point when we started becoming, like, romantically involved that we were not just, like, planning on getting married and just, like, building a life together.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was never casual.
No cash. Straight passion. Farm passion.
Yeah, we wanted a farm. I wanted a farm. He wanted to marry me. So it was
It's the same thing. That's my piece of advice for husbands.
Yeah.
Like, to the point that, you know, when you're going through like a lot of transition in life and money's tight and things are uncertain, we didn't like go on a bunch of like trips and stuff, or even like go do stuff. We had kids, and like, this is what we would do to hang out, and I'm not exaggerating. Jessica would go and find farms for sale, and then we would drive out there. It didn't matter how far they were. We'd go
And if
30
they were
minutes.
unoccupied.
Yeah, 45 minutes, doesn't matter. We'd go out, and we'd go look at them and talk about what we would do to farm them. Put the chicken coop here, and look at the barn, and
Yeah, that's really
if
what
they
we did.
accidentally left the door unlocked, we might check out the house. It happened. So somebody here in Arkansas is probably living in houses that we
looked at a lot of
looked at.
properties within like probably a 1 hour radius of where we were. If it went for sale and somebody wasn't living in it, we explored that
So
property.
we buckle the kids in the car seats, you know, at that time, go through and get them a meal, and we would go drive around to farms and dream about.
That's wild to
farming.
remember. I know, that was like
And
our
now we drive
foundation.
by certain places that like,
We wanted so bad that we couldn't have.
yeah, and like other people have them now, and they're doing similar stuff that we thought we would do there. But it's just interesting to see.
It's interesting to remember the moments of heartache that we would sit in those properties. And I mean, places that truly were just a fraction of what we have now. But we wanted it so bad, and we couldn't afford to do it. And we were just dreaming and just getting a visual.
We dreamed a lot and waited.
We did. I have a couple of questions that I want to ask.
I didn't prepare any questions.
That's okay. You can just ask me the same ones back.
Okay.
I got you. I got questions on questions. You can ask.
Well, in Jessica's new interview show, you don't really get any preparation. It's just like, oh, there's the camera. What are we doing? Interview show. All right. I'm down.
So, 10 years in,
10 years in.
what is the thing about our marriage that surprises you the most?
What is the thing about
I literally
our
didn't even know I was going to ask that question until it came out of my mouth. I thought I was going to go in a different direction, but I just went with it. See, I got questions. I got questions I don't even know I have.
Was that ever in question?
Carry on.
What is the thing in our marriage after 10 years that surprises me the most? Well, since you're shooting from the cuff, if I was shooting from just straight, like, honest answer based off of previous experience and kind of really how culture kind of portrays marriage in, like, TV and all that, like, you kind of grow up with this, like, you'll have, like, a really, like, passionate and like full of love beginning, and then there'll be like this dull period while you get through midlife, and then you'll, you know, reconnect on the other side of having kids and raising them, and like
That is really a cultural.
and that's what they show. And so that's kind of what I just built in my head. And what really has surprised me after 10 years is that I am just as passionately in love with you and attracted to you as I was 10 years ago, if probably even more so now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that we have a lot of gratitude for our marriage. You know, having had negative experiences, I think that we have a lot of gratitude for what
It definitely established in us personal drive to make ourselves better, to not go through.
Yeah.
Like when we actually got married, we sat down and we were like, the D word is off the table.
Yeah.
Divorce is never going to be discussed ever.
Just because having gone through that, it's such a like a soul crushing experience to just have your family imploded, and so
your kids and how that affects with everything, and like.
And so we just were like, hey, and it was really kind of like one of those things, like we sort of said it in jest, but sort of meant it. That I was like, listen, buddy, like you ain't getting out of this for nothing. I will hunt you down. Not that he tried, but I mean, we were just like, I don't ever want to go through that again.
Well, honestly, it helps in the hard times, because I mean, you know, obviously we don't like shoot vlogs about our disagreements and our frustrations with each other, because
they happen.
They happen though, and the thing is like, I've never felt unsafe in having a bad day or a bad fight, because I'm not worried about, is she going to leave.
Yeah.
Like, and I know people who live in that kind of situation. Like, we don't have to experience that. And I think, you know, it's not like we're special. I think we just made a choice that was not going to be an option. And
I do want to put a disclaimer up, because I don't ever want anything that we talk about to bring shame and condemnation to anybody. Like, we are divorced. Like, I understand that there are situations, and there are abusive situations, and there are situations that come up. And so I don't ever want, like, our words to be misconstrued. But we've always been willing to work out our differences. But also, I don't take for granted that I can treat you any kind of way. You know, like, it's almost like this place where you say, I'm in this, I'm committed, I'm not going anywhere. But also, I'm not going to live like this is a punching bag I can throw my full weight against all the time, and it'll always be there. Because, I don't know, it's kind of a weird, like, tension between those two realities that says, this is safe, and so I don't have to be afraid to be myself, but also I want to be safe. So I'm not gonna take for granted that I can always have this. Does that make sense?
Right. And I understand what you're saying. Like, every situation is unique. Okay, every relationship of two people to come together is completely unique and special. It has different circumstances, and there's no other relationship like it. And so in that, you know, friends have asked me for advice when they were going through things. And, you know, I basically tell them, like, listen, I can't tell you, hey, you should do this or you shouldn't do this. I was like, I actually don't give that advice to anybody, because I don't know all the circumstances. I don't know all the details. I don't know the hurts. I don't know, I'm saying, like, I don't know all that stuff, but the person does. And so what my advice has always been to people who've come to me for marital advice or going through these problems, I say, listen, you've got to make a decision for yourself. And then you've got to live with whatever the outcome of that decision is. And make a decision, and I'll support you in whatever decision because I'm your friend.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm saying that because, like, we're not trying to bring any kind of shame or condemnation to anybody, or, like, we've been through this process, like, we know what it felt like for us. And so for us, we've just made a decision within ourselves to work on ourselves so we don't have to go through that experience again.
Yeah.
It has more to do with you addressing yourself.
I think for me, the thing that is most surprising is, like, I didn't know that life could be passionate and peaceful. Does that make sense? Like, in my life, things had to be in upheaval for me to feel something. Like, I lived in chaos for a long time. Like, I lived with so much chaos in my life. A lot of it was of my own making, because that's just a lot of my life, the things that were beyond my control, there was a lot of chaos and upheaval. And I felt things so deeply that when things would, like, settle in to regular and normal and, like, commonplace,
You'd have to shake it up.
I would feel this need to, like, shake it up and make chaos so that I felt like I was living again. And
we experienced that a little bit in the beginning of our relationship.
Through a lot of healing, I now have found so much passion and joy and excitement, while there's, like, this solid foundation and this peace and this calm. God, I'm so thankful for that. Like, that's the thing that, like, whenever I think about our life together and I think about our home, our household, and, like, what we do, like, I'm so thankful to be able to look at long periods of time where there have been no upheaval and I still feel alive. Which is good. Okay, so this is getting kind of long. What piece of advice do you have for relationships? Do you want me to go first? Because I already have my answer for this.
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, the piece of advice that I have whenever you are in a committed relationship and a marriage is to seek your own healing and wholeness. You know, Jeremiah and I have gone through a lot of process as far as being whole people, and we're still in process. I mean, we both see therapists, like, we both have gone through a lot to, like, work through ourselves, like, our own individual things, the traumas of our life, the things that just happen in living in a broken world, putting the pressure on another human, like your spouse, or in a lot of cases your friends. A lot of people put this pressure on their kids. Like, if you're putting that pressure on another person, another broken person, and you are looking to find your wholeness in them, you'll break them further. Like, and I did that to Jeremiah a lot, like early on in our marriage. I really like was looking for completion in him. And what I've really found is that like we're two halves of a whole, but we're both whole. And it is an interesting thing in marriage that 1 + 1 = 1. But it's not 1/2 + 1/2 = 1. I mean, we both come to the table whole. We both come to the table and give 100%. And somehow my 100% couples with his 100% and brings another. And that's not to say that there won't be seasons that you're lacking. I mean, I've carried you through seasons that you weren't able to come to the table fully. You've carried me through seasons that I wasn't able to come to the table fully. That's appropriate, I think, for there to be times of that. And that's what we get to do, is kind of have each other's back when there's hard and when life is hard. Truly, like, finding our own healing and taking responsibility for our own reactions and our own brokenness really has made a world of difference in how we're able to communicate, how we're able to partner on things, how we're able to dream together. And I mean, we spend all our time together. Like, it would be a challenge. I don't think we would survive how we do our life now 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, like, because truly we work together, we raise kids together, we run a business together, we run the farm, obviously was part of the business. We're in the public eye. There's a lot of criticism that comes with that. Like, there's a lot of things that are pressuring, but I don't feel pressure, really. I don't live under a lot of pressure, but it's because we have this safe I call it my bubble, but we have this safe bubble where this is just everyday life with two people who are 100% coming to the table. So yeah, get healing. Like, seek out healing for yourself, not for your partner. Like, you can't go get healing for your partner. You can't go to, let's say, therapy for yourself or counseling or whatever avenue that you're going through inner healing. Like, I can't show up and just talk about what needs to change with Jeremiah, because that won't change anything. Like, I have to go and get healing for myself. Do you have your answer? Advice? You weren't even thinking about it.
I was just listening to everything that you're saying because it was good. I was getting advice. All right, my piece of advice would be mostly towards husbands. There's something that I'm just now coming to address. It kind of connects back to like a cultural standard of things, of like how guys should be, and how they're raised by their fathers, and like all these factors. But as a guy, as a former Marine, I can process in the moment intense situations, keep my head, make sound decisions, and get through that. Like, there's multiple instances where I was, God had me in traumatic, very serious situations in the last, honestly, since we moved in here. And it didn't overwhelm me in the moment, which is part of training and part of just being like a guy. Like, you process things differently. And the thing is like, I've gotten really good at, over the years of being, even from when I can see it from when I'm a child up until now, I'm really good at just taking feelings and emotions and bottling them up, compartmentalizing, blocking them off so you don't have to feel them, process them, or go through them, and keeping on moving. And I've gotten to a point now in the last few years where that is no longer functioning. It's not good at all anyways, but I've had to come to the realization that I've got to go through this stuff. I've got to unpack it. I've got to talk about stuff. I've got to talk about emotions. Honestly, like, I've boxed up and bottled emotions so much that I even have a hard time even knowing like what emotions I'm feeling. And so I really want to say to guys, like, it's not weakness to have emotions and to talk about them and to put language to it and process through stuff. Like, especially guys in the military, if you've been through stuff like
You're literally trained to not.
right, and I understand that, and I understand the need for that, because in those traumatic situations that I was placed in, like if I had not been able to do that, I would not have been able to do any of the things I was doing that I needed to do in the moment. So I understand the need for it. But what they didn't do in the training is be like, okay, now after you're done, you need to go sit down and talk with somebody and help them, and they're going to help you get through what actually happened and how it made you feel and the memories and the different things. And so for the last year or so, I've been going and talking and figuring out a lot of stuff and processing stuff and like writing letters and not necessarily to give to people, but just to get stuff out. I don't know, I hope this isn't sounding too cliche, but like unpacking that stuff, like getting help in that area, because it helps me be a more connected and tender father. It helps me be a more connected and safe place for Jessica. Before, when I was just keeping everything kind of compartmentalizing stuff, what would happen is, you'll get a moment of weakness where your mental game isn't on top notch, and essentially the lid gets tilted. You pop the corner of the lid off, and then something comes out, emotions, and you snap at your kids, or you really can't really get control of it, and it just like kind of just explodes, and then you fix it. So then you get the lid back on, you're like, yeah, I'm fine, but like there's all this damage, and essentially what it is like you have to go in and get a controlled release. You have to like unpack it in a safe place where there's not going to be all that. And I'm considerably more in control of myself and the person I want to be, rather than out of control doing things I don't want to do. And then, that would be my advice.
I think that like you really elaborated like your perspective. I mean, and this is good. Your healing, like what I was talking about, getting personal healing, that's really the number one thing I can think of in a marriage.
We're really talking about the same
We're
things.
talking about the same thing. And for you, getting personal healing was exactly what you're saying. Because
I just don't want the guys out there to be like, yeah, honey, you should go to a counselor, I'll be fine. Because that's usually like, that's how I used to approach it. Yeah, sure, go talk to somebody, great.
Yeah,
I'm
because
fine.
I was just an emotional mess all the time, because I had to have things like, I had to have turmoil. Like that's what I perceived passion to be, was really intense, heightened emotions. And what I learned in really finding healing and like getting solid on myself was that it's not intense, heightened emotions. That's not always where we need to stay. There's actually another level. There's like a depth of emotion that happens when you learn to just like be at peace. And both of those things, I mean, that was your journey in healing, and I've been in mine, and learning to just like have the trust that it's okay. It's not gonna, the fire's not gonna go out just because it's not roaring. Like there's value to coals. And so yeah, so I think that we've had really different experiences in that, because we had really different baggage and background, but it's the same thing. It's really about healing. And I feel so much confidence, like sitting here saying it's our 10-year anniversary. Like it's the healing and the faith and the faithfulness I feel of God to have led us through that. That's where I really am like, we're gonna have a 20-year and a 30-year and a 40-year and a 50-year. Like we're gonna have a lifetime, and it's gonna be good and fruitful, and we're gonna build a legacy, because and it really comes down to choosing to just tackle the junk.
Tackle the junk.
That's good. This is way deeper than I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be funny.
Yeah. You didn't ask very funny
We did
questions.
get into a little argument right before we turned the camera on, because I made sure my cup of coffee and it wasn't good. I didn't pull the espresso shot right. And so he's like,
well, it's not quite that simple.
okay.
I pulled an espresso. Okay. If we were really going to tell the story, we got to go back to, I
didn't buy the coffee.
I ran out of coffee, so you're like, just use this other coffee. And so then you did. And then I went to pull my shot this morning, and it was horrible. And I was like, hey, this isn't working. You said, it's working fine. So then you came and did it.
So I told him, we got to shoot this video, just drink the coffee.
So I poured my steamed milk over these crappy shots of espresso and
Gosh, you're so bougie.
choked it down. It was still better than Starbucks.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us today and celebrating this milestone in our lives. We love getting to share it with you. Here's to the next 10.
The next 10.
Coffee cheers.
I'm out of coffee. I drank it real fast because it tasted bad.
We bless you. Until next time.